Hello and welcome to Anytime Yoga. I'm so happy that you're joining me this week. This week we're going to be focusing on a peak pose of Warrior Two, and I'm going to introduce you to the universal principle of alignment called Open to Grace. And this is within the Anusara yoga tradition. Some of the background that I've learned under many of my mentors have taught me. And that's what we're going to be going through over the next 8 weeks, is learning about these universal principles of alignment, UPAs. So we'll start with Open to Grace. And I'm just going to be giving a slight introduction to it all, but hopefully it will help with our heart alignment and a focus on our physical alignment with each of our poses. So Open to Grace, it's one of my favorite UPAs. It's very foundational. And Open to Grace is this mindset as well as this physical alignment of setting the foundation of the pose. And so that can be setting your foundation spiritually, emotionally, mentally, noticing where you're putting your mental energy and where your foundation is in what you believe and what you value and how you're living out those values. It's also in the physical practice of asana. So as we move from pose to pose, you are setting a strong, firm foundation into your mat, into the earth below you, so that you can rise up strong. So you're rooting down into your foundation to rise up strong and aligned in a healthy way. So an example of that is when we do downward facing dog. You're rooting each finger, each knuckle into your mat, and sometimes we might feel our knuckles bubble off of our mat, and that's when you want to notice and root back in. And so every time you're moving from a pose to another pose, you're wanting to set your foundation first. That's the first thought that needs to pop into your head, is how am I rooting into my foundation? Whether it's a standing pose, you're rooting your feet into your mat. Whether it's a balance pose, maybe you're only on one foot, how are you hugging in? How are you aligning your posture, strengthening through your muscles? And so, and that moves on to other UPAs. So setting the foundation of a pose, and it's also coming to your highest intention of that pose. So as I've stated before, each pose is going to look different for each of us. Our bodies are created differently, our muscles, our bones, how our joints work, they're all slightly different. Some of us might find it easier to develop our strength, and we're strong, we've got these muscles, and others might find it easier to develop our flexibility, and you're super flexible. And so whichever end of that spectrum you're on, you're still creating that balance and finding that highest intention. So you're strong, you're going to work on some of the flexibility. If you're flexible, you're going to work on the strength and try not to hyperextend. Another aspect of Open to Grace is inner body brightness. So it's rooting into your foundation and then brightening up into that pose. It's noticing the brightness within you. It's lifting the crown of your head. It's softening the boundaries. So when you're in that pose, rather than staying rigid and really like scrunching your face and being really tense, instead it's softening. Where can you soften? At times you're going to really need to stay strong through your core, or strong through your legs, strong through your feet. But what other parts of your body can soften when you're strong in those other areas, right? So setting the foundation, inner body brightness, and then softening outer to inner. It's a form of self-care. So noticing where, once you're in the pose, where can you soften from your outer to inner, the structure of your body to the heart of your body. And a lot of this is mindset. A lot of this is thinking not just of the physical, but also of that emotional, mental, spiritual side of you. And then Open to Grace is also noticing how your body stays full. So when you're in that pose, downward facing dog, warrior two, puppy pose, how can you fill out, breathing into your belly, breathing into your back body, into your kidneys, sending your breath throughout your body, filling up, shining out, extending. Okay? Open to grace. So I'll come back to that a lot as a recap. Open to grace is setting your foundation, moving into the highest intention of your pose and knowing when that highest intention is. It might be a different variation. It might be stepping out of the pose when your body says, we need to pause. Inner body brightness and softening outer to inner. Okay? So let's jump into our sequence for this week. Go ahead and find a comfortable seated pose, either kneeling on a block or sitting cross-legged. Hips a little higher than your knees. Root down. Get strong through your core. Lengthen through your spine. Palms facing down for more groundedness or upward for more openness. Lengthen through the crown of your head. Close your eyes or lower your gaze and begin to notice your breath. Invite your breath past your throat, past your heart, deep down into your belly. Letting your body expand and contract with each inhalation and exhalation. Take a moment to check in with your heart, your body, and your mind. Noticing what feelings and emotions are bubbling below the surface. Acknowledging those feelings with curiosity and without judgment. And check in with your body, noticing how your body feels, noticing any discomfort or dis-ease, sitting with yourself, and sending your breath to those places throughout your body. And then check in with your mind, noticing where your thoughts may have drifted. With kindness, invite your thoughts back to your mat, back to this moment. I invite you to set an intention, a word or a phrase you can return to for kindness and encouragement, whether you're on your mat or off your mat. On your next inhalation, raise your hands above your head, meeting your palms together. Exhaling your hands to your heart center, Anjali Mudra. Let's begin this class with one Om, joining our voices together. Take a deep breath. Exhale HA. And inhale for Om. Gently release your hands, softly blink open your eyes, shrug your shoulders, turn your head side to side. And back to center. Inhale your hands above your head. Exhale, twist over to your right. Breathing deeply. Lengthening through your spine, shining bright through the crown of your head. Focusing more on lengthening than twisting. And as you exhale, maybe you'll notice a little bit more of a twist. And inhale back to center. Exhale over to your left. Breathing deeply. And back to center. Exhale your hands to your heart center. Go ahead and grab a block to sit on or pile up your blankets. We're going to bring our feet out in front of us, lengthening through our legs. Have a micro bend in your knees. We're going to move through cow face pose, which we'll start the class with and end the class with, noticing how does that feel different in our body. So root down with your heels into your foundation. Extend your feet skyward, so get strong through your toes, long through your spine. And then bring your right knee to your chest, bring your right foot over your left foot, and you can pause here. This is a great place to pause. This is a good variation. Or if you want to continue, bend your left knee, bringing your left heel to your right. And then you're going to place your right knee over your left knee, pausing here. So either bend both knees or keep your left leg extended. Inhale your hand high. Bring your left hand behind your back. Bend your right elbow. And either grasp your hands behind your spine or extend your fingers toward your fingers and pause. You don't have to grasp your hands. You can even use a towel or a strap to hold between your hands. And pause here and breathe. You can close your eyes or soften your gaze, breathing 2 to 3 times. And gently release your arms. Come over onto your left hip, extend your left leg, bring your right foot back over, extend your right leg. Second side, bend your left knee, bring your left foot over your right leg. Pause here, variation A, bus stop A. You can stay here, or you can bend your right knee, bringing your right heel back toward your left hip, bringing your left knee over your right knee. Opposite, bring your hands high, bend your right arm behind your back, lower your left hand, and breathe deeply. Again, you can use a strap between your hands, you can clasp your hands, or just point your fingers toward one another. That's what I'm doing. Soften your eyes, soften your jaw. Notice how this side might feel different than your first side. And gently release your arms, hands to heart center. Gently release your right leg, extending it out in front of you. Cross your left foot over and come into butterfly pose. Bend both knees, bringing the pads of your feet toward one another. butterfly pose, your heels are a little bit closer to your body. If you want more of a diamond shape, like a baseball diamond, you can move the heels and pads of your feet away from your body. Pause here, pressing the palms of your feet into your knees back up into your palms, staying active through your legs, through your feet, through your toes, and continuing to lengthen through your spine, shining bright through the crown of your head. Feel how your body is connecting to your foundation, rooting into your mat. Breathing deeply. And then gently fold your knees back toward one another. Transition to tabletop pose. So you can grab a blanket to place under your knees if that would feel good for you. Root your palms, your fingers, your knuckles into your mat. Open to grace, setting your foundation. Toes rooted into your mat, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, and begin to flow between cat, cow, flowing with your breath, moving at your own pace. Beginning to warm up your body, wake up your spine. Back to center, add a little more variation, moving side to side, looking back at your hip, looking back at your other hip, kind of wagging your tail slowly. Meeting back in neutral spine, begin to add even more movement, sinking your hips back toward your heels. Creating a horseshoe type shape, moving from side to side. Any of these variations work for cat-cow. Let's notice how your body feels physically. Continue to check in with your foundation, rooting your knuckles and fingers into your mat. One more time. And then meet back in neutral spine. Pause here, draw your shoulder blades onto your spine, and then floss your shoulders a couple times, moving your spine through your shoulder blades, up and down. We're not bending our elbows, we're just using our upper back. And then end with shoulder blades on your spine. Walk your spider fingers out in front of you, softening your heart towards your mat into puppy pose. Draw your lower ribs back toward your spine, then soften again. And inhale, rise. Walk your spider fingers off your mat to your right, coming into side puppy, lengthening through your side bodies, extending from your wrists through your shoulders all the way through your hips. And inhale back to center. Exhale over to your left. Soften through your heart, second side. And inhale back to center. Root your full hands into your mat. Draw your chest forward into modified plank. Shoulder blades on your spine. Get strong through your core as we move through chaturanga. Modified, you can do this in modified or at the wall or at your chair. Keep your elbows close to your sides as you lower down to your mat. Lower with your chest and then your hips. Root the tops of your feet into your mat. Inhale, lift your palms off your mat, turning your gaze to the top of your mat. And lower back down. Get strong, strong, strong. Rise back up, staying even through your core, through your chest, through your hips, and sink back into puppy. Move through chaturanga 2 more times, flowing with your breath at your own pace. One more time. Rising up, sinking back into puppy pose. Root your palms into your mat. Draw your chest forward into tabletop pose again, or a modified plank pose, I guess. Then lift your knees off your mat into bear pose. Hug into your core. Energetically draw your forearms toward one another. And then lower your knees back to your mat. Sink back into puppy pose. And inhale into modified plank. Lift your knees off your mat into full plank. Hug in, and then rise up to downward facing dog. Bend your knees as much as you need to get your long trajectory from your wrists to your shoulders all the way out your hips. Walk your dog, moving your knees and hips side to side. And then inhale your right foot skyward. Draw your knee to your nose. Use as many steps as you need to root your right foot between your hands. Set your blanket to the side if you have that in the way. Get strong through your legs. Root down, open to grace, setting your foundation. Hug into your core, strong core, before rising up into crescent lunge. Inhale your hands high, front knee over front ankle. Exhale, cactus arms, lowering your elbows by your shoulders, and inhale high. Exhale, lower, breathing deeply. Inhale your hands high, exhale, open wide to your left, and then open wide to your right. Back to center. Exhale your hands to your heart. Draw your chest forward, twist to your right, bringing your outer left elbow to your outer right knee. Open your arms wide, staying twisted, rise back up, and come back to center. Hands high. Exhale, windmill your hands down to your mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Keep your right foot lifted high, even at your hips. Bend your right knee. Keep your right foot engaged. Then open through your hip. Scorpion dog. Lower your right foot to your mat. Yogi's choice. You can move through modified or regular chaturanga. Rest in downward dog or rest in child's pose. Flow at your own pace. Notice what your body needs this morning. Honor where you are today. Meeting back in downward facing dog. Take another breath. Inhale your left foot high. Draw your knee to your nose. Lower your left foot between your hands. Root down into your foundation. Strong legs. Rise up slowly to standing. It's not uncommon to feel a little lightheaded as you transition from downward facing dog up to crescent lunge. So pause when you need to. Flow with your arms and cactus arms. Breathe slowly. Take your time transitioning from pose to pose, especially if you are feeling lightheaded. Inhale your hands high. Exhale, open wide over to your right. And then over to your left. Back to center. Exhale your hands to your heart. Anjali Mudra. Draw your torso forward. Twist to your left, bringing your outer right elbow to your outer left knee. Open your arms wide and rise up. Staying twisted. It's all right to feel a little rocky, shaky. And back to center. Exhale your hands down to your mat. Step back. Left foot high. Even out your hips. Bend your lifted knee. Open through your hip. Keep your foot engaged. Scorpion dog, second side. And then lower back down into downward facing dog. Take a deep inhalation and exhalation. And bend your knees as much as you need to. Look at the top of your mat. Hop or step to the top of your mat. forward fold. So feet are hip distance apart. You can have a block out in front of you. Forward fold, upper body over lower body. Releasing your head and neck, nodding your head yes, shaking your head no. Nodding your head once again. You can clasp your elbows with your opposite hands and sway side to side. And release your hands. Bring your fingertips to your block. Inhale, halfway lift. Nice long spine. Shoulder blades on your back. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. Reverse your swan dive to standing. Meet with your palms above your head. Clasp your hands. Micro back bend. Come back to center. Crescent over to your right. And then over to your left. And back to center. Lower your hands to Anjali Mudra. Or bring your hands to your hips. Or bring your hands beside your hips. Palms facing forward. Shoulder blades on your spine. Tadasana, mountain pose. Notice your alignment, rooting your feet into your foundation, open to grace. Getting strong through your legs. Notice that your hips are not jutting forward, but drawing them back. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze and return to your intention. Take this moment to offer yourself encouragement, kindness, self-compassion, and quietly offer that same intention to those around you. We're going to transition into chair pose, and I'm going to have you use your block. You can either use it to hold between your hands. You can also place it between your legs, your upper legs, and this helps stay activated through your legs and through your core. So you can feel the difference between using your block, not using your block. So yogi's choice this week on whether you want to use your block, hugging in. Keep that at the top of your mat. Also, notice your alignment. So you want your feet to be parallel, like train tracks, not with your toes pointed out or your toes pointed in. Keep them parallel. Your feet are hip distance apart where your hip bones are. So you'll activate through your feet, rooting down into your foundation. Strong legs, hug into your core. Think of your balloon breath, right, as if you're blowing up a balloon. That's activating through your core. So that's what I mean. That's the feeling I mean when you're hugging into your core, getting strong, activating your core. Shoulder blades on your spine. Okay? So we'll pause here. Root down. Find your alignment. Inhale your hands high. And exhale, sit back as if you're sitting into a chair. Pause here. Hands can be up and out in front of you, open wide in front of you, or at your heart center. Yogi's choice. Pause here and breathe. You might feel your legs starting to heat up. Maybe they start to burn a little bit. That's okay. That's normal. Release your hands behind your hips. Then slowly, slowly, slowly rise all the way up to standing. Rooting down to rise up, open through your arms, and sink back down. Flowing through chair to standing with your own breath. Trust your strength here. Your body's getting used to this pose, getting used to this movement. Think of rooting into your mat as you rise up. Sink deep into chair again. And then forward fold. Release your head and neck, nodding yes, shaking no, and nodding yes once again. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale your hands to heart center. Come into wide angle pose. Feet are wide, toes are pointing toward the corners of the long edge of your mat. Bend your knees. Make sure your knees are moving in the same direction as your feet. So not just your kneecap, but the whole structure of your knee. So you don't want them coming inward or outward, straight over. Root down, strong legs, strong core. Inhale your hands high, star pose. Then exhale, bend your elbows, bend your knees, goddess pose. Pause here and breathe. Continue to strengthen through your legs, through your pelvic floor, up through your core, shoulder blades on your spine. Rise up onto your tippy toes. It's okay if you shake a little bit. And lower back down, rise up, extend through your legs, extend through your arms. And sink back down into goddess pose. Breathe deeply. Rise up. One more time. Lower down. Rise up onto your tippy toes. Nice work. You're doing it. And lower back down. Rise all the way up. Exhale your hands to your heart. Point your toes toward the long edge of your mat. Inhale your hands high. Exhale, forward fold. Wide angle forward fold. Release your head and neck. Bring your left hand to your right ankle for a nice stretch. Second side, bring your right hand to your left ankle. And come back to center. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. And exhale your hands to your heart. Heel toe your feet a little wider than mat distance apart. Set up for Malasana squat. So you'll want to have a rolled up towel or blanket or even a rolled up end of your mat behind your heels. Have a block nearby if you want to use that to sit on. Root down, strong legs, strong core. Inhale your hands high. Exhale, skier's pose, bringing your elbows down to your knees. Bus stop A. This is a great place to pause if this feels best in your body. If you want to continue on to Malasana squat, lower your hips down to your heels, elbows between your knees, long spine. If you find yourself hunched over, add more blanket under your heels or grab your block, place it behind your booty at any height, and then you can sit tall. Go ahead and move through heart opener. And if you want to add any hip mobility, go ahead and do that. Bringing your right knee down to your mat, then your left knee back and forth. Listen to your body. Honor your body by offering what it needs in this moment. Meeting back in Malasana, breathe deeply, lengthen through the crown of your head. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze. Returning to your intention. On your next breath, lower all the way down to your sits bones, setting your blanket to the side, grabbing your block. We're going to move through a tiny bit of core in boat pose. So your foundation is your sits bones, rooting your sits bones into your mat, staying lengthened through your spine. So we don't want to be hunching. We don't want our pelvic or our hips to be moving back. We want to be drawing them forward. Root down with your heels into your mat. This is bus stop A. So I like to have a block between my hands to hug into with my forearms, with my core, my pelvic floor, hugging in, really activating through my muscles. Bus stop A, keep your toes engaged. Bus stop B, lift your heels off your mat. Your shins, calves are parallel to your mat. Bus stop C is you extend your legs all the way out. So choose the bus stop that is right for you. Root down and rise up to your bus stop. Hug in, activating through your legs, your toes, your core. And if you want, move your block to one side, back to center, over to the other side, back to center, flowing with your breath. And at any point, if you want to move down to a different bus stop, go ahead and do so. Listen to your body. Continue to hug in, stay activated, softening outer to inner. So notice, even as you're staying strong, notice where you can soften. Maybe soften through your eyes, soften through your jaw. 3, 2, 1, back to center and release. Nice work, everyone. Extend your legs out in front of you, rooting your heels into your mat. Place your hands behind your hips, fingertips pointed toward your hips. Root down, shoulder blades on your back. Get strong through your core and lift your hips off your mat. Counter pose. 3, 2, 1, and lower back down. Nice work. Bend your knees. Transition to tabletop pose. Step back into plank pose or modified plank. Then lift your hips, rising up into downward facing dog. Soften your heart. Root your hands into your foundation. Walk your dog for a moment. And inhale your right leg high to the sky. Even out your hips, draw your knee to your nose, root your right foot between your hands. Take as many steps as you need to get here. And then heel toe your right foot to the outer edge of your mat. You can pause here with your back knee lifted, lizard lunge, or lower your back knee down to your mat into modified lizard lunge. From here, you can rock back and forth, open up onto the outer edge of your right foot, creating more movement for your hip and legs. You can also grab a block, place it at whichever height works for you, and bring your forearms down to your block. Breathe into lizard lunge, creating openness and space. And set your block to the side. Heel toe your right foot back to the center of your mat. Root down, lift your back knee. Lift your right foot high into the air again. This time bend your lifted knee, open into scorpion dog. And then draw your right knee to your nose again. This time, lower your shin down to your mat. We're coming into pigeon pose. Your right knee is on the outer edge of your mat. Point your toes. If your shin is at a 90-degree angle, you don't have to point your toes, but if it's more at a 45-degree angle, make sure to point your toes. Root down. So your legs are rooting into your foundation. Get strong through your legs and rise up. You can bring a block out in front of you, rooting down to rise up. And you can bring one hand to your hip, switch back and forth. Keep both hands on your hips, or bring your hands out in front of you to your block. Rooting down, hug into your core, shine bright through the crown of your head. Breathing deeply in pigeon pose. And then when you are ready, gently release back down to your hands, down to your forearms. You can pause here or bring your forehead all the way down to your hands or to your mat. Extend through your back leg, rooting the top of your foot into your mat. Stay even, making sure you're not slouching one way or the other through your hips. Stay aligned. Gently rise back up. From here, come all the way down to your sits bones. Bend your knees so that your legs are at 90-degree angles. You can kind of move off to the side. Here is a nice hip mobility flow we'll go through. We're rooting down, then lift your knees up and move them to the opposite side. So lower down, rise up. Lower down. You can keep your hands on your hips or bring them back behind you to help kind of windshield wiper back and forth. One more time. And then transition into tabletop pose. Nice work. We're going to move into second side. So we'll go through that same sequence through lizard lunge into pigeon and windshield wiper. So root down, lift your hips high, downward facing dog. Inhale your left leg high, draw your knee to your nose, root your left foot between your hands, heel toe your left foot to the outer edge of your mat. Stay in lizard lunge or lower your right knee down to your mat into modified and begin to create more space, more openness through your hip. Coming onto the outer edge of your left foot, sinking your hips back towards your heel, and then maybe bringing your forearms down to your block. Continuing to breathe and move with your breath. Take one more breath where you are, and then set your props to the side. Lift your back knee, heel toe your left foot back to the center of your mat, root down, lift your left foot high, bend your left knee, scorpion dog, open through your hips or through your hip. And then draw your left knee to your nose again, lower your left shin down to your mat. Coming into pigeon pose again, root down into your mat. Get strong, strong, strong with your legs, strong through your core, your pelvic floor, and rise up. Bringing your hands to your hips or to your block. Shine bright through the crown of your head. Remember to breathe. Pigeon pose, second side. And then gently lower down to your mat, to your palms or forearms. You can even lower your head down to your hands, to your mat, and breathe deeply. Take one more breath where you are, then rise up, come all the way down to your sits bones. So second side, windshield wipers, I'll face you. You can stay where you are. Legs and knees at a 90-degree angle, hands can be back behind you or on your hips, and then windshield wiper from side to side. Keep your feet and toes engaged. Move side to side, just a couple of breaths. And then transition back to tabletop pose. Root down, offer your body another cat-cow, whichever variation would feel best for you. Meeting back in neutral spine, root down, rise up to your plank pose, and lift your hips high into downward facing dog. Inhale your right leg high. Draw your knee to your nose, lower your right foot between your hands, root down, get strong through your legs, rise up into crescent lunge, and open into warrior two. We've reached our peak pose of the sequence. Notice your alignment, strong feet. Notice what your feet are doing. Your front foot is facing forward, your back foot is at a 90-degree angle, parallel with the back of your mat. Front knee over front ankle, long back leg. If your hips are jutting forward, draw them back. Shoulder blades on your spine. Turn your gaze over your fingertips. Warrior two. Reverse your warrior, bringing your right arm over your right ear, left arm down by your leg or behind your lower back into a bind. You'll feel a stretch in your right hip. And then side angle, bring your right elbow to your right knee. Reverse your warrior. Side angle. Then bring your left hand to your left hip, grab your block, bring it to the inside of your right foot, at whichever height makes sense for you. This block is going to help extend your arm to the ground. Stay open through your heart, bringing your left shoulder blade onto your spine, left hand on your hip, or bring it skyward, turning your gaze toward your fingertips. Full side angle. If you want to play with another bind, you can bring your left hand behind your back, right hand comes under your leg, and you can clasp your hands under your leg, or use a strap. Yogi's choice. You can play with the bind, or keep your gaze turned skyward, or bring your left hand back down to your hip. Those are different bus stops for extended side angle. Take another breath where you are. Root down, get strong through your legs, your core. Rise up, reverse your warrior. Come back to warrior two. This time, clasp your hands behind your sacrum. Get strong through your core, soften your heart toward your mat. Let your hands drift off your sacrum into humble warrior. And inhale, rise back up. Warrior two, lengthen through your front leg, coming into reverse triangle. And windmill all the way down, bringing your hands to your mat. Step back, downward facing dog. Take a breath here. Check your foundation. Open to grace. Second side, inhale your left leg high. Draw your knee to your nose. Root your foot into your mat. Get strong through your legs. Rise up into crescent lunge and open into warrior two. Check your alignment, the alignment of your feet. Get strong through your legs, through your core. Warrior two arms. Reverse your warrior. Side angle, left elbow to left knee. Reverse your warrior. Side angle. And bring your right hand to your right hip. Extended full angle. Grab your block, bring it to the inside of your foot to extend your arm. Stay open through your heart. Lift your right hand skyward. Turn your gaze toward your fingertips. You can stay here or move on to another bus stop, playing with bind second side. Lowering your right hand behind your back, left hand under your leg, clasp your hands or a strap between your hands, and play with bind. Yogi's choice on which bus stop you'd like to be at. Take one more breath where you're at. And then rise up, reverse your warrior. Come back to warrior two arms, humble warrior. Clasp your hands behind your sacrum, strong core. And then soften your heart toward your mat, letting your hands drift off your sacrum. Humble warrior. And inhale, rise up. Warrior two arms, lengthen through your front leg, reverse your triangle. Exhale, windmill your hands down to your mat. Coming into plank pose, lower your knees to your mat and come all the way back to your heels. Pause here. Left hand on your heart, right hand on your belly, shoulder blades on your spine. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze and return to your intention, breathing deeply. Letting your belly expand and contract with each inhalation and exhalation. Gently release your hands, softly blink open your eyes, and come all the way down to your sits bones. We're going to end where we began with this class with cow face. So extend your legs out in front of you. I'm going to face this direction so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I am going to grab my blanket to sit on, lift my hips a wee bit. Extend your legs out in front of you. Keep your toes and feet engaged. Have a micro bend in your knees. Draw your right knee, or bend your right knee. Bring your right foot over your left leg. Pause here. This is a great bus stop. You can also move to the next bus stop by bending your left knee, bringing your left heel toward your right hip, letting your right knee rest on top of your left knee. Inhale your hands high. Exhale, bring your left hand up around your back, and then lower your right hand to reach your left hand. You can clasp your hands or a strap, or just point your fingers toward one another. Draw your ears over your shoulders and breathe deeply. Notice how your body might feel different at the end of your sequence than when you did this pose at the beginning. And if you don't notice a difference, that's okay too. You are still noticing. Softly release your arms. Gently extend your left leg out in front of you. Cross your right foot back over. And extend your right leg. Second side. Bend your left knee. Bring your left foot over your right leg. Pause here if this feels good for you. Or bend your right knee. Bringing your right foot back toward your left hip. And rest your left knee over your right. Inhale your hands high. And opposite, bring your right hand up your back and lower your left hand, either grasping a strap, clasping your fingers, or just reaching your fingers toward one another. Breathe deeply. Take one more breath where you are. And then gently release your hands. Extend your right leg, cross your left leg over, extend your left leg. Bring the pads of your feet toward one another into butterfly or diamond pose, pressing your palms into your knees back into your palms. You can flutter your butterflies, moving your knees up and down. And then gently draw your knees toward one another. Come all the way down to your sits bones. We're going to cool down, so if you want to put on a sweater or put some socks on, go ahead and get cozy. Meet all the way down on your back body. Shoulder blades on your spine, root down with your upper arms, robot hands, fingertips pointed skyward. Get strong through your core, your pelvic floor, and your glutes. Root down to rise up into bridge pose. Breathe through bridge pose. And gently lower back down. Open your arms into T-pose. Heel toe your feet, mat distance apart, and windshield wiper your knees over to your right. And back to center, over to your left. And back to center. Lift your feet off your mat, bringing your knees wide, your feet wide, coming into happy baby. Hands behind your knees or at your ankles or at your feet. Rocking side to side to give your lower back a little massage. And then when you are ready, gently release your legs, extending them mat distance apart. Coming into Shavasana, corpse pose. Hands beside your body. Let your foundation fully support you. Softening through your eyes and through your jaw. Softening your shoulders. Releasing your hips. Softening the backs of your knees and the backs of your ankles. Return to your natural breath. When you are ready, curl over onto your right side. Using the strength of your arms, rise up to seated. Hands at heart center. Each of you are worthy of love and belonging. I encourage you to go into your day offering your intention to yourself and that same intention to those around you. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you for joining me for Anytime Yoga. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.